sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. For it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Thank you! We're back with Master Caleb Tokarska.
I have a question for you.
Oh, shit. Okay.
When was your first Grateful Dead show?
Oh, first Grateful Dead show. 1992? 92?
Where'd you see him?
92. Charlotte at the Hornets Stadium.
So how old were you here?
92, I was like 17, 18, something like that, I think.
It was a good
16,
show?
17. It was awesome. It was the first time I dosed acid. It was mild acid, so I dosed right before I went into the show, and we had, the seats were kind of high, like midways up on the bleachers, and it's a pretty large, arena, and it was just like at one point I was looking down at the crowd and everything, and everybody was standing up and everybody's dancing, and like all of a sudden I felt like we were just one huge, massive, entity, just one huge live entity, and we were like so huge and powerful at that moment that we could just shoot up out of the fucking roof and into outer space. That's how strong I felt the energy, and then I just smiled from ear to ear until I had fucking muscle cramps in my cheeks.
I thought that a lot of times actually when I've been sitting in the bleacher part of an arena and you're looking down at the people on the floor, and
it starts to like they're all moving at the same time kind of thing.
Especially with the lights going on.
Yeah, it starts to actually look like a blanket of people rather than separate people. We're all one huge blanket of people, bro, and we're dancing it out, bro. Rock and roll! So, I had a question for you, and then you messed me up by asking me a question. Oh my goodness! Oh yeah, I remember now. First concert you ever went to? Tell me about it.
You're gonna like this.
Okay.
All right. I was 6, and it was Willie Nelson's family picnic in Austin, Texas. And I saw.
I knew having parents that you have, you probably went to a cool one.
I saw the Dead. It was right after. Okay, Jerry died in August of '95, and I was born in October of '95. So it was after all the little side things they did, and they really came out as the Dead. I'm pretty sure. So they had Jimmy Herring on guitar with them, and Warren Haynes on guitar with them.
Yes, Jimmy Herring's so badass.
And I don't remember much.
I got to meet him just recently, Jimmy Herring.
Really?
Yeah, whenever Widespread was in town,
man.
I worked backline, and so I was working with Drum Tech, and we went into the rehearsal room where they had everything rehearsal set up. And Jimmy Herring was sitting there. He's like, "What's up, guys?" And he started talking to us about where he was going next and how he's not flying because he don't really dig that shit. And
really?
He's riding the bus and blah, blah, blah. It was pretty funny. It was cool, though, to meet him.
You don't like flying?
So down to earth. No, he's like, him and JB apparently were riding the bus. Everybody else in the band was flying. And he's like, fuck that shit. I think he was having some kind of sinus issue, though. Yeah. I think that's might be why. I don't know if he necessarily doesn't like flying, because but that's not really the impression I got. But I think he had some sinus issues, and so you can't really fly if you have real bad sinuses because of the compression. So that's the first one was Willie Nelson. You said,
yeah.
Where was
Willie
it at?
Nelson's family picnic.
Oh, that's cool.
It was in Austin, Texas.
What?
Yeah,
dude.
It was pretty awesome.
And then
after I learned. I mean, after. I've known about that concert, for a long time, but then my stepdad pulled up the recording, and I was like, "Are you telling me that Jimmy Herring and Warren Haynes are playing with the Dead?" I really wish I could go back now and listen to it,
Well, it's funny to me because the cool thing about going to a Grateful Dead concert back then is that everything was recorded. So about a month after your show, you would be able to find a bootleg of that show. And there's a huge community of people that trade, to this day, live Dead shows. And I think that's so cool because that community of people are true music lovers. They're those type of people like Jerry. A lot of people don't know this, but before the Dead were real big, Jerry would go across country. They would go across country with little recorders, and they would go to bluegrass shows, and they would go to fucking folk shows, and they would go to blues shows, and they would record everything that they heard. And then they make it back to California, and they would share their tapes with everybody. Another thing, like Tony Rice and David Grisman and Jerry are on this bootleg tape called the Pizza Tapes. It's not actually a bootleg. It was recorded in David Grisman's basement studio, but that tape was supposedly stolen by a pizza guy or some shit like that, and then he put it in mass circulation, and so it's called the Pizza Tapes.
It's Tony Rice, Jerry Garcia, and David Grisman.
Yeah,
awesome.
And it's fucking crazy good, dude. And it's those guys are like real musicians. Whenever you seek out music, it's just like the Beatles and the guys in Britain. The reason we had a British invasion, like they say it was, is because they were devouring our blues. Devouring it. Like anytime they could get their hands on a new blues album, they were fucking eating it up.
Yeah.
They didn't take it for granted like the Americans did, because blues musicians throughout our history haven't been getting their proper due, most of them die broke. And not saying that that's a bad thing or that their souls are unfulfilled. But at the same time, people of lesser talent are fucking getting $15 million for singing a song about bubblegum.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you fucking serious right now? I will kill you. But I did like, there was a Robert Lee Hooker got a lot of, good things happen to him towards the end of his life. He didn't end up dying, poor. But you think about those, like going back to what I said about live music, you think about those people, and there was a huge surge in the 60s and the 70s of live music where there was a lot of improv going on. And that's the reason people want to see live music. That's the reason they go to it. They don't go to it to hear what they could hear on the fucking CD.
I mean, that's why jam bands have such a big following, because they know the next night they're not going to play any of the same songs.
Yeah, exactly.
At all.
And that's the thing. That's the reason that the Dead or Widespread or Fish could go and they could play the same venue 3 nights in a row, sell it out every fucking night, and then you're not going to hear the same thing each night. It's not the fucking same set. And that's what attracted me towards the Grateful Dead in the first place, is because they don't use set lists. They jam throughout, to kind of pick out what, and then they'll just fall into a song. And sometimes you'll sit through a 3-hour set that's totally mediocre, and you never have that moment where the light cracks through the darkness. But then the next night you go, and about halfway through the set, this fucking thing happens, And it's like the guys from Red Belly, they're a dead Confederate now, but the guys from Red Belly once said to me, I think it was John the keyboardist, anyway, Watkins, I think. Anyway, he said that he compared jamming with fishing, because you can sit there and you're enjoying yourself. You're out in nature. You're catching a buzz. You're with your buddies. And it's beautiful outside. But when you catch that fish, that line, it starts getting tight, and you pulling on that fish. That moment of excitement is what they're talking about, and that's what they're looking for. So
that's a really good analogy.
Yeah, it's like he compared it to fishing because it's the only other thing besides music that made him feel that way. So sometimes being musicians, you can kind of get jaded and you start feeling like you're going through the motions. And people that play music all the time and have such a passion for it, like Jimmy Herring, like Warren Haynes, like people, in the Dead and stuff like that, and String Cheese Instant, all these people that have been traveling, they're constantly road dogs. They're on the road all the time. I mean, Widespread, I don't know how the fuck they do it. Their schedule's ridiculous. And, I know that they have it pretty luxurious nowadays because, those guys have a setup to where it's like we know exactly, their crew's on, and a lot of their crew's been running with them for years and years. So once you have it to where you know exactly the routine and you get it to where it's fucking awesome, then it becomes pretty easy and pretty routine. It just
has to be really tiring.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be. Oh God, I couldn't imagine. Now I want to do it though. I want to do it one of these days. And then also, there was something else I was going to say about that. But it's not like you. It's not like. I think that eventually what's going to happen is they're going to get tired of the bullshit, and there's going to be a shift happen. And I see it happening in like your little brother, the generations that are coming up, the younger kids that are coming up. They're becoming, I believe, more intelligent, more wise, and
there just has to be more good influence on them than bad influence.
Yeah, they have to be, good music always has a host. It always has somebody, you can't just stumble upon, sometimes you get lucky and stumble upon stuff, but sometimes you can't just stumble upon a Sean Phillips album and be like, oh, wow, this is incredible music, or a Nick Cave album. It doesn't matter. The thing is that a lot of times you have to have somebody say, hey, check this out. Hey, check this out. This is awesome shit,
I mean, that's why I have my taste, just because of my exposure as a kid, which is, it's really funny, like, because I listened to, my parents played me The Dead and Fish when I was a kid, but then in middle school I went through like my metal phase, and I was like, my mom tried to show me The Dead, and I was like, that's just sissy music.
Yeah.
And then when I got into jamming, I listened to it again, and especially Fish, because I mean, I love all of them, but if you told me I could get a free ticket to see Fish or Panic or Further, I'd go see Fish, just because, like, musically they just blow my mind. I mean, like, the different time changes they do, the interaction they have jamming. But did you see that they played on The Tonight Show?
Uh-uh.
They played on the Tonight Show, and I mean, I heard my dad say he listened to it and he's like, this is not Fish. It's their new album, Fugo.
Yeah.
It's apparently really, I don't know.
Different?
They're going to come out with something different, but
yeah.
I mean, I've never been too much into their lyrics. I mean, some of the songs are fun to sing to, but I like them for their musicianship. I mean,
I think that there's still going to be a realm of those guys like Deadmau5, who I believe is just a hack. And he might have an ear for music, but he's not a real musician. I'm sorry. He could go into the studio and produce some electronic shit, but fuck that. Anyway, there's going to be a little market for that bull crap, because those dudes are like filling like 50,000
just one
arenas.
Guy.
Yeah, one dude. It's just like ridiculous. And I'm like, how the fuck can you be mixing music with a huge mouse head on your fucking head that's got lights all over it? I just don't get it. Anyway, this is me sounding like an old fucking dude. Anyway, but
no, but he probably makes like a ridiculous
amount of money, ridiculous, and it's bullshit. But
you can like have that at home, man.
I think that eventually everybody's gonna be they're gonna be craving live music more. They're gonna want to fucking listen to somebody who is actually saying something, and there's actually a movement of that happening. The reason that I say that is because I remember 20 years ago in this scene, and there was nothing but power chord bitches. I'm sorry, guys. I know a lot of you guys that play power chords, and that's fine. I play a power chord every now and again, but I'm just saying, don't do it all the fucking time. I mean, even Metallica did Unforgiven. But anyway, so that's fine. You're doing the and so I remember having a dream that one day our scene would actually have real musicians in it. And now we have people like, Jacob Belts and Philip Lee and Michael Badamy, and even the guys who are playing the punk around here, they have more melody and they have more feeling and soul behind what they're doing. Whereas I could see the shift in the scene heavy over the years, and now we have a scene that I'm super proud of. I mean, we have some insanely talented musicians in this town. Not to mention this is where James Brown came from. People, get with it. It's the Soul City, son. We're out. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Caleb. You the man, dog.
Warning, you will never be the same because you have been listening to the Soulcast with your host, Happy Bones. We'll see you next week.